The newest psychological horror film called The Night House will be releasing in theaters this Friday, August 20th. So if you're wondering if it's any good or not, then you should just check out this review. Welcome back, film fans. This is Let's Be Real, Brad. Today on the channel, I'm going to be talking about the brand new psychological horror film called The Night House. It is directed by David Brunker and it stars Rebecca Hall in the title role. This film is about a widow who begins to uncover her recently deceased husband's disturbing secrets. The title, the poster, and even the trailer for this movie all looked and sound like a great horror film that I really wanted to check out. This movie has already been getting some pretty positive reviews because it premiered at Sundance Film Festival in January of 2020. And I think the biggest reason why this movie works is because of the scares. The scares in this movie are quite great. And I think the reason for this is because the movie doesn't overtly rely on jump scares, which is a big, massive problem in the horror movie industry right now. The real horror comes from the atmosphere, the direction, and the fantastic cinematography in this film. This is also a great looking film that I could not keep my eyes off the screen, especially in the third act where there's some color changes and there is some great, wonderful uses of darkness in this movie that I don't think we'll get a lot of credit for. The second best aspect of this movie is the acting. Rebecca Hall absolutely steals the show, and she is going to be one of the biggest reasons why this movie works. Every single time she is on screen, she steals the show. I thought she was so genuine in all the crazy, chaotic moments that she was able to deal with, and she was able to deliver some very comedic lines as well that I was not expecting from this film. Without Rebecca Hall in this movie, I don't think I would have really enjoyed the movie as much as I did with her. I also want to give a shout out to Sarah Goldberg, who was one of the other supporting characters in the film, that I thought she did a pretty solid job as the friend character in the film. My third positive with this film is the screenplay. In most modern day horror films, they have to be able to overly explain and dumb down the screenplay for the audience to be able to know what's going on. In this film, there are many moments where the screenplay is very subtle, and if you're not paying attention, you're not going to understand why things are going on. You have to learn and interpret things on your own, and I just feel as though that the writers were able to respect the audience, and I felt so much more engaged with this movie. There are times within this movie that they don't explain many of the characters' backstories or relationships, and you're supposed to be able to interpret what those things are, and by the end of the film, it is very open-ended on what really happened or what was really going on this entire time, and that to me is exactly what I want from a psychological horror film. I also think the structure of this movie is pretty good, being able to figure out this mystery along the way, and I feel like that most audiences are really going to be attached to this mystery. The script also has great comedy in this movie that I really was not expecting. There is a couple scenes, especially the one with the grade book, that was easily the funniest scene in the whole film. There are many times where the jokes do come kind of out of nowhere and it has this dark comedy feel. And my last positive with this movie is the music. I found the music in this movie to be very good. At sometimes it could be a little bit overbearing, especially in the third act. Overall, I really enjoyed the music and I felt like it added to the scares in this movie, and I also really enjoyed the way the music was used. I feel like it did it so naturally within the atmosphere that the director was able to create. I felt like the editing in this movie was very smooth. It had some great cuts in the film, and there are some great editing choices, especially in the third act, that felt so seamless. And for a cinephile like myself, you are going to really appreciate some of the really cool editing choices and some of the sound editing choices that I thought worked extremely well. Now, let's get into some of the negatives I have with this movie, and the biggest one, in the middle of this movie, it drags quite a bit, and I feel like the movie starts to repeat itself over and over again, because some of these scenes just felt like a rinse and repeat of just seeing these characters go through the same motions, and I was starting to get quite annoyed with it, and the movie was starting to drop in quality. So when the movie did pick back up in speed, I was way more into it, but that is something that I think a lot of people are going to notice. My second negative with this movie is that I feel like this movie is way too predictable at times. I don't know if it's because the themes that this movie wants to talk about, whether it's going to be depression, grief, anxiety, or being able to have suicidal thoughts, are all represented very accurately in this movie. And as someone who has been through all of those things, I actually found this movie to be very terrifying and very heartbreaking, because some of the choices that they were able to use in this film to showcase what it's like dealing with that felt very accurate. But unfortunately, because I know so much because of my own personal experience, I did find where the story was going to be a little too predictable, but I don't think a lot of audiences are going to notice this. And my last negative, that I feel like this movie had too much dialogue that was on the nose. I feel like the movie could have been a lot more subtle than it was, but again, if it was too subtle, audiences aren't going to really enjoy the movie. So overall, guys, The Night House is a pretty good psychological horror film that I do recommend, while also being a terrifying and a very scary horror film that affected me on a very personal level, and I feel like they were able to craft some creative and great directing choices within this film. I'm going to be giving The Night House a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys all for watching, and I hope you guys hit that subscribe button, leave a like if you want to, and ring that notification bell so you never get to miss a new video.